This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss business and marketing tips to help assist you in your business journeys. I'm your host, Daniela, and I'm Penji's Partnership Coordinator. I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Dylan Badura from Straight North. Hi, Dylan. How are you doing today?
Doing good, Daniela. Ready to get started.
That's good. That's good. I like the energy. I'm very happy to have you today on the Fully Managed Podcast. But just to kind of break the ice a little bit and get started, get warmed up, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, a background on who you are?
I'm an account executive at Straight North. We handle digital marketing from website development, SEO to paid. Previously, I've ran full-fledged advertising campaigns on digital, from paid itself all the way to streaming TV, programmatic, you name it. If it was online, we could pretty much get you there. So it's a little bit about me, my background. Before that, I played some baseball till I was about 26 or so. Went overseas, lived life to the fullest while I could, and then decided it was probably time to a career I could grow old with.
So where did you go overseas to play baseball? I'm so curious.
Yeah, I was in Australia for about 8 months or so. Actually, what's really funny is I got married last September and had my host family, the twins I was living with at the time, came out to visit me. So it was really fun to see them again after a good amount of years.
That's so cute. Uh, So nice. Well, I think digital marketing is just as exciting as baseball. So you're not missing out on that much.
There's a lot of parallels, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess marketing goes into everything. You could apply marketing to almost everything if you wanted to get the voice out there.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to obviously you're a person who has a lot of experience on digital marketing. When you were doing that career shift from baseball to marketing, what inspired you to actually get into digital advertising or, this sort of field? And how has that journey sort of have been evolving throughout the years as you have been growing in it?
That's a good question. I'd say it kind of it started, I'd say, in college. I was trying to figure out what I wanted my major to be. When I first went to college, it was all about going for baseball. So I didn't put too much thought into it. Over time, we started working on like communications. I got more into that and figured, after doing radio, I did a little bit of TV work over there. The advertising really stuck out to me because you can be creative. It's all about kind of framing and how you can make things look and appear to your audience and just make it fun. I always thought, the whole strategy behind that and being able to even just needle down to the color of things is what appealed to me. So as I kind of grew in my profession and where I'm at now, the stuff that still really sticks out, the strategy is really fun because you can take a million different strategies for a million different companies in a million different industries and be able to apply different aspects of it and just kind of keep working and find something new that's going to work every day.
Yeah, that's true. It is very I think I always say marketing is kind of the creative corporate job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the fields where you can be a little bit more creative than others. Like for the people who are in finance or sales or maybe product development is actually kind of creative depending on the product that you're developing. But yeah, marketing, like you said, is definitely a place where you can really just go and be creative.
You can come at it from a different angle. I mean, what I'm going to come up with is probably something different that you'll come up with. So at the end of the day, there's, like I said, a bunch of ways to do things, but you just got to be able to put yourself in the shoes of the customer and say, what would I like to see?
Yeah, no, totally. But I wanted to also, I think some that I also wanted to ask you about this. digital marketing specifically, I mean, marketing in general has been changing a lot over the years, but digital marketing has sort of risen above, I guess, or like become a lot more popular and mainstream with marketing campaigns. It's also an aspect that is constantly changing with all of the stuff that changes with the world. Um, with when you started doing this, what are the biggest shifts that you think you've seen happen in the past few years? Because I can think of some, but I really want to hear what your point is.
That's a good question. I think the first thing that probably sticks out to me is just the lean into new social media with the rise of TikTok and obviously that being a hot topic as of late. A lot of eyeballs and attention's gone over there. I think its search engine alone has become, I think, number two or number three behind YouTube and Google. And being able to find pretty much whatever you want on there has become a norm. For me, I love to use it to find cooking recipes, cocktail recipes. I mean, you name it, you can look on there right now. We're currently in the midst of kind of remodeling our bathrooms at our house. And so I've found tons of designers on there, different ideas that they like to put out there. And I think a big shift into that area of things, especially with attention and how the algorithm works, has been kind of the forefront. And digital marketing, I'm sure something else will come along and take its place as digital marketing continues to develop.
TikTok is really a thing that's just do you remember I mean, I know that before it was Musically, um, and I they probably had, like, a different name before that, but I remember, like, when it was Musically and people were doing it, but it wasn't still as big, and then it shifted over to TikTok. Um, I remember it got really big, but a lot of people were still not, like, very into it. They were like, "Ew," like, "No, I don't like it."
I
And then
still
it
have
kind of
that
turned
stigma of dancing.
yeah, it was like yeah, it's a dancing app, like, I don't wanna go in there and do dances, like, that's so cringe. Mm.
Mhm.
And, like, obviously, like, elderly people and I guess, like, people who are outside of, like, the young sphere were also just very skeptic of it.
Yeah,
And then sort of I guess, like, for me, my experience was kinda like I just kinda, like, heard it and I was like, "Oh, like, okay, it's a bad app." And then one day I was curious, I downloaded it, I tried it, and then I just, like, was immediately addicted. It's just such an addictive platform.
it's hard to get off of there because you'll sit there and scroll, and then all of a sudden 2 hours have gone by. Like, oh my god, what am I doing with my life right now?
Yeah,
But
just
very
doom
much
doom
so.
scrolling.
Yeah,
Doom
and I mean,
doom scrolling.
exactly. And I'm old enough to remember the Vine days. It's fairly similar in a lot of regards, but like you said, anything that's kind of new, it's going to have certain stigmas around it until you kind of dip your feet in the water and check it out, and then all of a sudden, that's your new favorite app.
Yeah, no, I think once, like, people started making money off of it and, like, celebrities and stuff of that like, that got into onto the app, it's sort of started to become a little more popular. But, I think what like you said, it's been a huge topic of discussion, as of late because of everything that's going on with, like, whether it was gonna get banned or not, but I also think it's very interesting how all of these social media platforms have become, a source of marketing for a lot of businesses. I mean, I don't think every business has to be on TikTok specifically, but I definitely think that most businesses should be on social media in some shape or form, whether it's like
Mhm.
an Instagram page or Facebook or whatever it is that you think is better for your business. I don't know if you agree.
No, I totally agree. I think, social media as a whole, you got to have that top of funnel marketing. You got to get your name out there, connect with people with your brand, and be able to, get them before they start making a decision on whatever either your product or service is. That's very important. 'Cause that's going to help you win when they come to the search and doing, whether you're doing SEO or paid on Google. If they see your name, if they have some sort of relevance, that's going to help out that click rate a ton.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And now that we're speaking on social media, I think that there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to digital advertising or marketing where people think digital marketing and a lot of people immediately associate digital marketing with social media, right? They think social media marketing, like posting on social media, social content, etc. I think digital marketing is a lot more than just social media marketing, but I think that that's a misconception. What other misconceptions do you think people have about what digital marketing is and, what it sort of does as a whole for a business?
Yeah. Honestly, I deal with this question probably every day when I talk to new prospects and people we want to bring on board as a client. It's the whole I've gotten burned so many times. Does this even work? I'm just throwing money to the wind type of deal. It's very hard to one turn around that misconception of digital marketing actually works. A lot of times, other companies, I always equate it to when you're trying to find a company to work with, it's a lot like dating. There's going to be a lot of bad dates out there. You're going to have to go on a lot of them and suffer through. But eventually, you're going to find a good one, find someone to partner with. And that's kind of what you want to do with the company as well, is make sure that not only are they a good company, but are they willing to work with you? Because everything may not work right out the gate. But as long as that company is willing to move and shake and, optimize as you go and make those adjustments, then you're with a good partner. Because a lot of times people come to us, say, I've spent X amount on Facebook, I've spent X amount on Google. I never get anything. It's all spam. I don't believe it at all. Especially, the older generations just don't buy into it because they've talked to a lot of people who've just been burned by them in the past. And that's something that you got to be able to build that trust with, and especially show them how we may differ or you may differ as a company, and show them really what they should be looking for when it comes to data coming in, and kind of making those adjustments. Because at the end of the day, data is going to give you the roadmap. You just got to learn how to read it.
And what to do with it, right? So, what is working right now in digital marketing that, a marketer or a business should double down on when it comes to digital marketing?
Content. Content is king. Make sure you have good content. That's why reason you guys do podcasts and shows over there. It's the reason why we try to put out a lot of different blogs and articles and help out our clients to do a little bit of the same. And more content you have out there on the web, and quality at the most, is what's going to be important. That's something that, Google's been rewarding every time they come out with an algorithm change. It seems like that's what they're talking.
Yeah, it's true. Content is doing really well. And I think like there's a lot of content that can be sort of repurposed for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Which can be really useful for marketing. I think especially for like smaller business owners who probably don't have budgets for like big campaigns.
That's a great point, especially when you have, 20,000 spend on whatever platform. You got to make sure you're doing that posting consistently, making quality stuff, and not just, hey, we completed this job, or check out this cool quote that we found. It's got to make sure you're resonating with your audience on what you guys do.
Yeah. What would you say to people? I think a question that I get a lot from up and coming business owners is that a lot of them are aware of that, are aware that content is important to a marketing strategy, right? The problem is not that they don't know that. A lot of people tell me, I know I have to make content. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make. I don't have the resources, bandwidth. I'm not a camera person, or like, I don't like to write blogs. Whatever it is that they have to say, there's like a block there. What is your advice to people for them to sort of get that ball rolling and get started?
Put what's interesting to you. Do your day-to-day stuff. I've seen, how it works behind videos. And I think it was a couple of weeks or months ago, there was a post that went viral on social media of a guy hanging from a TV wall mount, showing how strong his wall mounts are. And like, it's just fun stuff like that. It doesn't have to be all this professional stuff. People enjoy a video shot on an iPhone or Droid, just showcasing fun stuff and what they do.
Yeah. Social media has also become more like craving for authenticity, right? I think
Yep.
I I remember when I was a teenager back in like 2015, 2017, that around that time. Um Sort of very highly produced content was very popular. And then I feel like it sort of changed at some point, and now I feel like it's completely different. Like, there's an appreciation for a little bit more raw stuff, even when it comes from like big brands.
For sure. I think that's something that all of us can relate to. Uh, we get fed with so many polished up commercial type things that we're looking for something else, something new, something be like, oh, I could do that, or I could see myself doing that type of deal. And that's especially, when you're a teenager, that's what you're kind of looking for and grasping for.
Yeah, I know. I agree. No, and I think like
Yeah.
we also have just been overtly saturated with ads. I feel like I've never I had so many ads shoved in my face than I do now. And, I still had cable TV when I was a child, and I would watch all of the commercials between TV shows. And I feel like, I don't know if maybe it was because I was a kid, but it definitely feels like nowadays there's a lot more ads everywhere with
Oh yeah.
everything.
Scrolling around the internet, even watching TV. I was watching basketball last night. Every 30 seconds is an ad break. I just want to watch the game at the end of the day.
I don't want an ad. No, and I think when I discovered that companies do product placement on movies and shows, I was so dumbfounded because I didn't even realize that I was getting advertised to while watching a movie or while watching a show. And then all of a sudden there's a can of Coke there, and I'm like, maybe I could drink a Coke today.
Yep.
And I had like no, I mean, I think before I didn't really have that sort of consciousness that that was a thing of like, even when I'm watching the show and I think I'm not getting any ads, I'm still getting advertised too.
Oh, that's the best thing, especially when you realize it too, because you can start watching shows like, especially like reality TV. You'll notice some brands are perfectly placed with the logo out in front of you, and then other times it's the back of the bottle of wine or something like that. Like, okay, I see who's paying for what now. And
Yeah.
that always makes me think of like Wayne's World. I don't know if you've seen that, but they do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that segment. I love that segment.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think like it does make you sort of change, you kind of shift your focus, right? You're a lot more, your eyes are open to seeing different things.
You look behind the curtain.
Yeah, look behind the curtain, exactly. But, I wanted to ask you because I think we were talking about this right now, right? Like it's such a crowded digital landscape basically, and I think also just consumers in general are becoming a lot more I wouldn't say a lot more educated, but maybe like they're just a lot more aware of what's going on and that they're being advertised to, and I think the standard of advertisements of what they're demanding is kind of getting higher in my opinion. Mm, what do you think can make ads compelling to a viewer or a user in such a competitive landscape nowadays?
Honestly, that can be all over the board. Kind of going back to your one point on authenticity, that's going to be a big point of it, but also what kind of voice do you want your brand to have? If you're going to be, a nonprofit, maybe that's more a little, pulling at heartstrings type of deal. But on the flip side, you could also go with a kind of a comedy touch and call things out from the get go. I've seen a lot of ads start, this is a commercial or this is an ad. So there's a lot of ways you can kind of go about it. It just depends on how you want your voice and your brand to seem. At the end of the day, that's going to resonate with what type of target audience you want to get into.
Yeah, that's true. And I think like if you're going with younger audiences, you can be a little bit more playful.
You quirk it.
I've noticed like brands that do younger audiences are very playful. Isn't because I think the young like Gen Z nowadays love that. As whereas with you working with more adult audiences, I think like they're looking for something a little bit less
A more serious
jokey.
tone.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's definitely true. But at the same time, you can still reach that audience with some comedy. It's just a little bit of different style or tongue in cheek, maybe sarcastic, depending on what you want to go for. But definitely with Gen Z, you want to be different. That's what that generation is all about. How can I stick out? I don't want to be like, Gen X or the boomers per se. I want to make sure, I'm different. That's something that you can even see in their style. Kind of start to dress like Adam Sandler.
It's like it's true, and I mean, I think also like with Gen Z nowadays, it's also about being authentic but being special. It's like a weird mix of it.
Yeah.
And I think I've noticed this I think with millennials there was I noticed at least I think that the difference was that millennials were a little bit they were kind of tapping into that idea of like being special and all of that, but I feel like they never really sort of embraced it the same way that this generation that Gen Z has. Because I feel like with Gen Z, it's like, oh yeah, I'm so hot. I'm like the king or the queen of the world or whatever.
Right. No, for sure. And I'm a millennial myself, and it's definitely on point. You want to be different, but not too much. You still feel like you're kind of in constraints. You still got those reservements at the end of the day, stuff that's been put on you by maybe older generations and just haven't been able to break free, kind of like Gen Z's been so free in what they want to do and being that, different person.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel like I'm in the cusp kind of, so I'm not I feel like I'm not a millennial, but I don't feel super Gen Z because I don't feel like I'm young enough to be Gen Z, but I don't feel old enough to be millennial.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like I'm always like in between those two generations, like sandwiched, and I'm always sort of relating a little bit to half of what's going on both sides because I definitely like, I was old enough when Vine was around, but I was still super young.
Hmm.
I was not, like, prime age for Vine, if that makes sense, but I do remember it existing, and I remember Vines.
Oh, for sure. On the flip side, I'm a millennial through and through. I remember, the flip phone days, the chocolates, all that.
The
I
chocolates
still
were
know my Hogwarts house. We talked about it. There was a big company meeting a couple weeks ago, all our Hogwarts houses. So I lean into it. That's me at the end of the day. I'm not afraid of it.
What is your Hogwarts house?
I'm a Ravenclaw.
You're a Ravenclaw, so you're very
I,
smart.
I'd like to think so.
I'm a Gryffindor. I mean, I know my Hogwarts house, but I feel like everybody does, even if it's I mean, I know that this Harry Potter is kinda associated with millennials, but I feel like that's still you still wanna know your house.
Oh, for sure. You want to be part of your team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, I also was I mean, we've been talking about all of this sort of like content driven, and connection driven and like being funny, all of these things. But I wanted to ask you about now a little bit more on the technical side, data. How do you actually balance? I think we've never existed in a world that provides us with so much data so easily, right? Like you can
Yeah.
get so many analytics through social media, through Google Ads, through all of these different sort of mediums to sort of see what how your users are interacting with your ads and your content. And how do you actually balance all of that data that you're getting with being authentic, being creative, being yourself and all of the things that people a brand would have to do in order to stand out?
No, it's a good question. I think it comes down to continually testing. Test everything from your snippets and your thumbnails down to the content that you're producing. See what's resonating with people. What are they lingering on your ads for? How long? Why did they do it? If they clicked in a certain part of it, what part did they click in? How long of the ad did they click into? If it's a still frame, what type of colors are we using? Test everything. And I think the best person that you can really draw from that is Mr. Beast. He does a great job of testing everything down to even the thumbnail. He's talked about it. That's the way he's become so successful. And I don't know if you've taken a look at the Mr. Beast games, but I believe that was the most streamed show as of 2024.
Yeah, I know. I saw. I mean, I also saw that he got into a lot of controversies, and I kind of started to look into it because of the games, and then I sort of stopped. Is it? But yeah, I mean, it was definitely very, very, very successful for him.
No, he did a great job. That's what he does. He comes out with something new. I'm sure he's got a brand new plan for this year to come out with a new either TV show or some type of content where he's building houses for people that don't have much.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, he's still. There's a reason he's on top. I think. Because from when he started making content that was a little bit lower budget, he was still doing something so different than what every other YouTuber influencer was doing at the time. That people started paying attention, and now he has the budget to do all of these really big things that he's done.
Yeah. No, it's nice to have a big budget. That's help you out a lot more, but it's like kind of touching back on an earlier point. If you don't, you got to be authentic.
Yeah, well, and speaking of budget, I mean, I think budget is a very big concern, right? Like money, financial stuff, especially for smaller business owners who probably don't have that.
Yeah.
I talked to someone the other day that was kind of like telling me that their strategy was organic marketing, right? Like they were just like doing organic content and trying to get everything through organic, and they were not going to do any kind of paid ads or advertising. And they were just focusing all of their efforts on organic marketing. Do you think that this is sort of something that is doable nowadays? Can a company actually survive without paid ads?
I definitely think so. A lot of it's going to come down to branding. And I think a great example of that is Liquid Death. I mean, they started as just like a general Facebook page, kind of a joke. And then all of a sudden they had 50,000 plus followers. And like, maybe we should actually do something with this. So if you can come out with a strong branding campaign, you can pretty much do anything as long as you're connecting with people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think like with all of these platforms, it kind of gives people sort of an equal footing to grow followings and get a community behind them.
There's got to be a path for the little guy. And that's
Yeah.
something you got to be able to work on.
And you know, I do think some brands have built massive audiences organically. For advertisers who are sort of seeing all of that, what do you think is the learning lesson that people can take from it?
Honestly, what resonates with people, and trends are always going to come and go and change. You got to create something. You can touch on trends, but you got to time those. Find stuff that talks to the human emotion. As I was saying earlier, picking in marketing companies like dating. Everybody dates. That's not something that's going to go out of trend. That's not something that's going out of style. That's something you can touch in there. Other stuff like being able to sit around a table with your family, different things like that are always going to be there. But trends such as dressing like Adam Sandler is probably going to be gone here in a couple of years, and it'll be a new trend. Maybe we'll go back to how people dressed in the '80s. I have no idea.
Yeah, the skinny jean hate is very rampant right now, and then in a couple of years we'll see people wearing them all over again.
We'll be right back to it.
We'll be right back to it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think like focusing on stuff that transcends trends is always important. Because it's going to speak to people, like you said, like dating is always going to be in people are always going to want a partner, right?
Yeah.
And dating is a pain in the ass. So it's the same, like you said, it's the same thing.
No, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, people are just looking for love, and it doesn't matter who you pick as long as that, like I said, a person's there for you. And that's something that's never going to go out of style.
Yeah, and I think that's a great note to end on. Very poetic. It's been so great to have you today, Dylan, on the show, but I do want to give you the space to plug anything that you want to plug. If we spoke about anything that resonated with anybody of our audience, I want to give you the space to tell them where they can find you, if they would like to work with you, and if someone wants to connect with you, space is yours for anything.
Yeah. Uh, you find me on LinkedIn, Dylan Badura. Anything you guys want to talk about as far as marketing, go to straightnorth.com. Our big thing here, especially we talked about kind of getting burned so much by companies. Our big slogan lately is hire your last agency, because we're willing to be that person to work with you guys. And I think that's something that's I'm very proud of here at Straight North. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for having me, Daniela.
Thank you so much for being here. It was so great to have you on the podcast. And I will be adding the links to all of these things on the description of the video so that everybody watching can go and click them easily and find you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Dylan. And guys, I will see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.